Hello, this is Sondra Oster, Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Ki Tavo, and it begins with the words Ki Tavo, when you shall come to the land of Israel. And there's a number of things, of course, in this Torah portion, but the centerpiece of the Torah portion is the text of the covenant. We first learn about this covenant, a covenant that it's a sort of a precursor here in the desert while they're still in the plains of Moab to this covenant that they will be executing between Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal that is first mentioned in Deuteronomy 11. But here in Deuteronomy 27 and 28, we have the actual text of the covenant. And like all covenants, it is similar to a contract. These are your obligations. If you follow your obligations, you will be blessed. And if you renege or breach your obligations, you will be cursed. And there is then, in addition just to curses and blessings, we have also descriptions, long descriptions of the sort of punishments. First of all, the sort of rewards, and later the sort of punishments that will befall the nation of Israel should they sin, should they leave God and reject His commandments and instead follow other gods. And it's actually interesting because the punishments, of course, are much longer and much more drawn out than the rewards. It's kind of with an understanding. Let me scare these people into obedience because they certainly don't want to do this. And the punishments themselves begin with, all kinds of things like loss of sovereignty, being persecuted by enemy nations, famine, failure of crops, and then it just, deteriorates. And the final element of the punishment is exile. And it begins like this: the Lord will scatter you among all the peoples, from one end of the earth to the other. And there you shall serve other gods, wood and stone, whom neither you nor your ancestors have experienced. So here we have a sense of not only leaving the land, but leaving the land and being scattered all over and totally losing their identity. Once you start worshiping other gods, that are strange to the nation of Israel, then it certainly looks as if you're just going to be assimilated away. Yet even among those nations you shall find no peace, nor shall your foot find a place to rest. The Lord will give you there an anguished heart and eyes that pine and a despondent spirit. So here then is the antidote to that total spreading around. If you're spreading around and you start adopting the ways of the nations to which you have arrived in, where you've come, then you gradually lose your identity. But what Scripture tells us here is, no, that won't happen. You will never feel at home. You will find no peace there, and you will have a sense of pining, okay? So that you will always know that this is not your home. You will always know that you are pining for God. You are pining for your land, for God's land. And then, of course, it goes on. The life you face shall be precarious. You shall be in terror night and day with no assurance of survival. In the morning you shall say, if only it were evening. And in the evening you shall say, if only it were morning. Because of what your heart shall dread and your eyes shall see. The Lord will send you back to Egypt in galleys by a route which I told you should not see again. Therefore you shall offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but none will buy. And that's the end. Okay? So we have a situation here, not just of exile, and you have the potential of assimilation, but no assimilation. And what will prevent that assimilation? On the one hand, a sense within the nation of Israel that they do not feel at home, that they pine for their land, for their God. And on the other hand, external persecution. Okay? They will be terrorized. They will be constantly in threat of actual survival. And that, of course, is the history of the Jewish people. Especially the long exile that we experienced after the destruction of the Second Temple from the first century all the way until recently, until the establishment of the State of Israel. This was the situation of the nation of Israel. Now I want to focus on just these few words. Nor shall your foot find a place to rest. And here in Hebrew it's kaf raglecha, not just your foot. The sole of your foot, or the palm of your foot, okay, is the literal translation. And it's a very unique kind of term. It's not a term that we find in many places, but we do see exactly this kind of term and this use of the same idea in two other places, but saying the exact opposite. So first of all, we see this in Joshua. Just, if we, we're towards the end of the 5 books of Moses now, we're at the end of Deuteronomy. If we just move to the next book, to the book of Joshua, in chapter 1, we have this verse. Every spot on which the sole of your feet, exactly the same word in Hebrew, on which the sole of your foot treads, I will give to you, as I promised Moses. And then if you want to say, well, where exactly did he promise Moses? Well, that is just a few chapters that we read a few weeks ago in Deuteronomy 11, verse 24. And here God is promising. It's the opposite of the curses that we see here in our Torah portion. This section begins in Deuteronomy 11, verse 13. If then you obey the commandments that I enjoin behind you this day, loving the Lord your God and serving him with all your heart and soul. And then it goes on to all these things that will happen. And we continue here in verse 22. If then you faithfully keep all his instructions that I command you, loving the Lord your God, walking in all his ways and holding fast to him, the Lord will dislodge before you all these nations. You will dispossess nations greater and more numerous than you. And now pay attention. Every spot on which the sole of your foot will tread will be yours. Okay? So here we have this promise that Moses conveys from God to the nation of Israel. You go, you behave, you obey God, you worship God, you obey his commandments. Every place you go, every place you step, literally, in the land of Israel will become yours, because God will help you to defeat your enemies and to conquer the land. And of course, this is said again to Joshua, reminding him what Moses had originally said. Okay, the same idea. Yes, go forward, capture the land, and obey God's commandments, and then every place you put the sole of your foot will be yours. So here in those verses we have this coming together of the idea of placing the sole of your foot representing possession. What is possession? It is yours. It is yours in the most basic sense of the word. Your hold on this place cannot be contested. It is your home. It is where you belong. It is where you feel most comfortable. It is where you feel at peace. And therefore, when we have in the curses here in our Torah portion, in Deuteronomy 28, the exile is represented by the exact opposite. If when you place your foot in Israel, it becomes yours, where you place your foot in other countries, it will never become yours. It will never be your home. And I think this is a very, very powerful message. Aside from the particular punishment or blessing, this is a very powerful message about the nature of the relationship between the people of Israel and the land of Israel. It is only in the land of Israel that the people of Israel will ever feel truly at home. And of course, when we talk today about the establishment of the state of Israel, one of the most important elements from the beginning of the state that became the ethos of the state was Aliyah. Aliyah literally means going up, okay? Going up, because we believe that from any other country in the world, when you come to Israel, you are literally ascending. You are ascending spiritually to go up to Israel. But what does this ethos say? That Israel is the only home of the Jewish people. And therefore, as soon as we had a state of our own in the land of Israel, we opened our doors and said to Jews all over the world, come home. And that, of course, is something that I personally did nearly 40 years ago. And I have so many friends and relatives and neighbors and so many people that I know have heard that call and literally come home. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video. And we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below, as well as on the notification bell. And that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you and have a wonderful day.